Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining the Women in Business ERG for a conversation with Germane CEO, Susan Hearn. Susan, our intrepid CEO and leader, take it away.
Thank you. So first of all, how many of you have a career plan in your brain written down? A 3-year, 5-year, kind of, okay, keep your hand up if you're pretty sure life is going to unfold that way. Okay, good, interesting. Well, as I thought about my journey, which is a little bit, I guess this guy windy, maybe would be a good way to say it. I thought first, if I look back at 18-year-old Susan, I would have no idea that I'd become a CEO, that I'd own yoga studios, go to culinary school, start a food company, lead hospitals, consult. I would have told you were talking about someone else. So regardless of kind of where your plan is, it's not always the perfect plan. And sometimes it's more important to be open and ready when opportunity comes. So as you walk through my past, you may see some of that, some of it logical and some of it kind of illogical, but I feel like it all kind of resulted in where I got and kind of built along the way that I didn't necessarily see. So I'll try to hurry. I have each section, and then I just kind of make maybe a key lesson on each one, and we can always revisit. But I started my journey as a nurse. I think most of you know that. I went to nursing for lots of reasons, one of which I couldn't really figure out what to do, and I wanted to go to medical school, but I didn't. But more than anything, I wanted to help people. So what I learned as a nurse, certainly to care for people and the importance of compassion. I remember one day I was all on making sure that I got the ventilator going, the drips are right. Then I kind of looked down and said, oh my gosh, there's a person there. Wow. And like this person has family and they're alive. And it just kind of hit me around people. So that was a real lesson for me around people and taking care of people and how important compassion and listening was. I also learned a lot, certainly, about calm under pressure, which I think has carried me far in my career. Um, and didn't really know that I was kind of leading in that point. But my big lesson there was around people first. So every organization that we deal with today and anywhere is built on people. So I moved from there into some hospital leadership. So I started being asked to be on maybe a redesign committee for the unit, or could you work with these consultants? I did once, charge nurse, manager, things like that. So I kept moving through different things. I helped create some trauma certifications. But what I discovered kind of looking back is regardless of where I found myself, whether it was here at work or on the book club or anything, I always seemed to be leading. So somehow I always became in charge, even when I thought I wanted to be just someone that came to work 12 hours, 3 days a week. So I didn't know it then, but I think now in seeing it, leadership isn't always the title, but it's about positively impacting people and outcomes. And I think that the way my brain works is very entrepreneurial and kind of systems based, is that I always had this opportunity to like see a problem and figure out what I might do about it quickly. So key lesson there, leadership is more about that influence, and that all of you have that opportunity every day in everything that you do, whether it's here at Germane or anywhere to lead. It doesn't mean that you have to be in charge of a bunch of things. It's seeing something, taking initiative, really supporting others, and thinking about always leaving a situation better than the way you found it. So from there, I think a very logical move I made was I went and got an MBA. So I felt like broadening my perspective would really allow me to have a greater impact on everything that I did. I found myself surrounded by all these incredibly smart people that were a lot of them from business, which I didn't have. So while a little intimidating to walk in as a nurse with really not much business background, I really embraced it. And I feel like this experience of working with the people and the curriculum, the internships, everything that I did along the way really kind of challenged me, but also changed me a lot. My lesson around my MBA was really expanding perspective, and just thinking about being a lifelong learner. So I think that's critical for all of us as we move forward. My second logical transition was to go to Deloitte Consulting after that. So fortunately, I had the opportunity to do so. I know they don't hire a lot of people, but I think that for me, my clinical background was really instrumental in getting a position there. Very excited about that. Also knowing it was kind of faster and bigger outside of my comfort zone once again. But just was really thrilled with that opportunity and love that I could help improve not just one organization, but the health systems and systems across the country. And it became a lot bigger than anything that I had ever done. So challenges that were there. It was a very male-dominated world back then. I was one of two women that was in my starting class that was probably 4 times the size of our boardroom in Dayton. So only two of us. And I was the only one really that rose to the top from that class. So what helped me grow was certainly always thinking strategically, trying to lead early on. I learned here that, it's important sometimes to not know what you're doing, but look like you do and be really committed to learn how to do it. And that was a lesson. I don't know how many times I learned. They said, yeah, just go, just do it, just present it, just pretend as if you've done it. So, and then eventually you kind of live in other people's shoes. And then it becomes really real for you. So not a lot of training there, not a lot of anything. It's a lot of throwing you kind of into the fire. So I do think my clinical background and my perspective was really helpful as we're dealing with health systems, and not a lot of people there had clinical backgrounds. So I think that was really helpful in my success. And also my ability to just work with national partners and clients was so helpful in growing for me. And a lot of them were looking for clinical experience. So that really got me into a lot of international clients as well as nationally. I worked in almost every state. So built strong relationships, had that tremendous network, many of which I still have today. I think my lesson, though, and I think this is kind of where maybe I started earlier in life, but I've always thought about grit and grace. So grit, kind of the mental toughness, the courage, refusing to quit. I mean, really, to be successful there, I worked 100 hours a week a lot of times, which is kind of insane, but I had the grit to do it at that point in my life. And I think grace, so important too, probably a lot coming from the way I was raised, but also my nursing of bringing kindness and patience and empathy to all that you do and the way that you carry yourself and treat others. So do the hard work, build relationships, have the grace. Then I get to the part that's not very logical. And I always kind of think that, man, were these detour years? I had a child at Deloitte, which people don't really do. Now they do, but they didn't then. And at some point, he started crawling in my suitcase and not wanting me to go. And it was becoming more challenging. And I was up for partner at the time. Doing my final partner presentation, I just thought, I don't think I want to do this. I don't think I want to be married to the company and not be around at all for my son. So I left. And I tried to stay home, and I think I made it a week. And I fell asleep every day because I don't know, there just wasn't as much going on as I was used to. So then I just kind of leaned into what I do. Health and wellness has always been my passion. I've always taught classes. I've taught cooking. I've taught every exercise class you can possibly imagine. So I started teaching at the gym, and then I started managing the gym. And then I added yoga to our schedule, and then I opened a yoga studio. Meanwhile, I was doing some charity things. I was doing a lot of cooking, organization, and classes. I went to culinary school then and opened a food company. Um, Continue down the path. I more charity. I ended up running the hospital foundation at some point and served as like the race director for races like all over the country. Where does that relate? I don't know, but and it just kind of keeps going in that way. My son started elementary school. I got on the school board. So it was, again, that philosophy of, well, if I'm here, I really see something, I'm going to go figure this out. So meanwhile, the whole time I was consulting with physicians and still kind of keeping my healthcare practice up and some pharma work. But well, I thought they were detours. I do think, and kind of looking back, that they really were kind of preparing me for, maybe my ultimate career here at Germane. So in looking at Germane and Art, and we had caught up a lot over the years. I think he called me when he first opened, and I had my twins, one in each arm, and my phone hanging here because, there weren't any cell phones then. And he's like, come, come. I'm like, I really can't. I have, these two babies. But so I kind of watched and kept in contact with him over the years and wasn't really sure if I wanted to be here. Most of the people that started Germane were from Deloitte. What I did see in coming and talking with a lot of the clients was a lot of purpose and hope and, this strong desire to make organizations better. There was definitely a lot of work to do. I knew we needed more organization. We needed a true mission. We needed better services or alignment of services. But I knew I could help too. So I made the decision to come and really feel like at this point where we are, that everything that I've done kind of came together. So, I had clinical here, there's leadership, there's entrepreneurship, relationships, missions. So I really kind of was able to bring everything that I have. And I learn every day from all of you, from our partners, our clients, and, I'm just always trying to make Germane a better place. So that's kind of my twisted journey that got me here.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. I
Okay, cool.
do love hearing about different people's journeys because, it was not just like you start here, went here, 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 right? And I think a lot of people can get discouraged sometimes. And so it's really good to see other people's kind of winding career paths and where you can still end up. And I really appreciated the grit and grace. I think that embodies not just the consulting world, but GME in general. So that really resonates for sure. Um, and then I really did appreciate at the beginning when you talked about kind of seeing what your role tends to be naturally in different groups, and then working with that to figure out what your next steps are. Um, that
Yeah.
was really good to hear.
Mhm.
So next up, I'm going to ask some of the specific questions that were submitted by the Germane employees in advance.
Okay.
Some of them probably touch a little bit on what we talked about already, but some of them are in a whole new area, so that's exciting. So what are some of the drivers behind your decision making as it relates to your own personal career choices?
Yeah, so kind of in looking back, I think that the opportunity to make an impact is kind of one of the biggest things. I've done lots of volunteer over the years. I think being a nurse and seeing the need of healthcare, like kind of from the roots, has really impacted me there. I love to learn. So I always want to be in a place that has learning, where I'm challenged, but also where I can inspire others, where I can take ideas and build some things, build systems or ways to hit something better. So I feel like really mission is a big part of it. Mission and impact on the world is always important to me, but also impact on people.
And then it kind of goes together, but what are you prioritizing when deciding your next move?
My next move, so thinking of from a Germane perspective. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So when I think about the next move here, and in terms of what we do, I'm always looking at advancing our mission, our excellence. I mean, that is our mission. And I did have a big influence in creating that as our mission. But and it's our mission of excellence for both our clients and our people. So I feel like it really addresses everything that we want to do as a company. I certainly consider how decisions support our strategic plan and strengthens our growth. That's a really big thing that we are pushing this year is how do we expand and broaden and get growth and success in that area. And also just moving us closer to our vision of, improving access and also, delivering unreasonable hospitality. That certainly is very important to me for sure. Ideally, I think our goal, if you look at our flywheel and where we're headed, we want to create raving fans. So we want the people sitting on this call and everyone within our company to be fans of Germane, but we also want the external clients and people in the industry as well. So I feel like I focus a lot on that as I make decisions.
Yeah, I like the idea of creating raving fans. That's fantastic. Um, I really like this next question. Which What skills do you believe are becoming increasingly important for professionals in today's workplace?
So I have to go back to grit and grace, of course, because if you don't have the grit to keep going and working hard, you're not going to make it. And I really think grace is about how we treat people and how we act. And I think that that's really critical. I think emotional intelligence is often underlooked, and I think that is really important, and that helps get us places. Even if we don't know the answer, if we act with emotional intelligence, you can kind of slide by some things and figure it out. Communication is definitely big for me. I think it's critical, especially here as consultants, that we have good communication. I love curiosity, willingness to learn, especially if as people are bringing solutions to me. So bringing solutions and not problems. I had a boss tell me once, like, don't ever drop that dead rat at my door. I'm like, what? And it's like, don't drop the rat unless you have a solution to get him out of here. So, so when people bring that, I think that that's amazing. But certainly technology is going to continue to be important. I don't think we know where it goes exactly. That will continue to change, but I think that's very, very clearly a big one. But I also think building trust, working well with others, and leading through changes is always going to matter, whether tech is here or not.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those people, interpersonal relationships are never going to go away.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then this is another good one. What characteristics do you notice in employees who consistently stand out?
And these are going to be a lot like the previous
Yes.
one. Um, but certainly those who are building trust and taking ownership, that's what you need, especially in an environment like this. We're very entrepreneurial in our environment. We're not managing every moment, every conversation that people have. So we really truly are looking for people that we can count on to take that leadership and um, to follow through. So I think that's really important. Again, I think people that are willing to learn and step into challenges really illustrate their desire to grow. And the more we continue to better ourselves and learn and grow, the better the organization does as well. So, all kind of the similar things that were in the last question.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. Um, this is another good one. I know I said that about all of them, but these are great questions. What accomplishments are you most proud of in your career?
Yeah, I think it's a time of bringing people together around that meaningful mission. So getting there and then finding the accomplishments with it. I think those are some of the biggest times for me and happened in various times, from stuff here at Germane to getting the rubber company to agree to donate rubber to the school so that we could put rubber on the playground. So there's things like that all around. It just says what difference am I making here? So whenever I can make a difference for people to make their lives better, that's what really gets me excited. Um, Probably why I was a good nurse. I mean, I'm still a yoga teacher today and have been for a very long time. And I feel like I'm in this service role in lots of ways to help people better their life. So I think that happens here at Germany too.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And then the last one that was submitted in advance is another good one. If you could give your younger professional self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I mean, I think it's about taking opportunities as they come. So trying things that just come to you, whether they're new, stepping into roles that maybe you didn't imagine. Um, I think when you seek, I had times like that in my world. I was on a mission to get into that big four consulting firm, but a lot of the other opportunities along the way weren't quite like that. They were, I was taking my son to school and someone's asking me, I'm volunteering for something and they're saying, you want to be on the board? So I think taking those things, being curious, and then always leading with grit and grace in your personal life as well as work, have probably been the things that I wish I knew that earlier. I kind of did it, but didn't really know what I was doing. Sometimes I felt kind of lost.
I know it's hard to have the confidence, I think, early on to take the opportunities that come your way. There's like some imposter syndrome for sure,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
some of that fake it till you make it. But I
Yeah.
think I think the theme of today that has emerged is grit and grace. I like that a lot. Um, all right, perfect. Thank you for answering all of those questions. I did want to open up the floor to anyone who might have more questions about the things we talked about or brand new topics. Octavio?
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca, for running us through this. And thank you, Susan, for all of the great information and recap. What is a practice that you've continued to maintain over the years to help you stay aligned with your values? Or if your values have changed, like how have you stayed attuned to that over the years as you've climbed the corporate ladder and gotten the MBA and gotten to where you are now? And sort of what your process is for staying in touch with those values.
I feel like one thing is personal. I'm a very driven health and wellness kind of person, and I know that when I'm out of sync from that, then I'm not a good person any longer. I'm not a good friend. I'm not a good worker. So most of my life, I've gotten up and run 3 to 5 miles a day. I went through a marathon phase, all those kinds of things. I found that wasn't too relevant. It was a great goal to do and hit, and I love to hit goals, but the consistency of doing that sometimes replaced later with yoga, but not always. I still get up and do that almost every day, and practice yoga. And it keeps my mind calm. It keeps me able to see out. Because I think when there's so much going on, especially today, I can shift from thing to thing to thing, like in minutes sometimes, depending on things that come into me. And if you're just constantly, my brain is going, my brain is going, my husband tells me my brain never turns off, but it turns off in those times of running and yoga. And, honestly, while you're supposed to be present there, it creates just tons of ideas and things that I see. So that's how I keep stable. I feel like I always have some mission or something that I'm looking at or doing, or a friend had someone with something, or I heard about. I'm actually trying to volunteer right now for the chefs in like hurricane crisis because I just learned about this. So, I think reading a lot, I'm a very avid reader, like opens my eyes to other needs that are out there.
Thank you so much, Susan, for sharing your insights. I think one thing that everyone here can agree on is that Germane Solutions is a very special place to work, and a major reason for that is your leadership and your emphasis on that people first approach. So, how do you think we can balance staying true to that mission while continuing to grow and innovate our company within the healthcare industry? And if everyone can remember one thing from our mission, what would it be?
I think as we continue to grow, I mean, we have to kind of do what we've been doing, at least in the last few years. I think that we've had a lot of resets at Germaine. We feel new again. Having that concept of, where are we now in our 2-year journey on our way to 10 years of so I think as we look out, just like anything you would have for your client, we have things along the way that we do. And as we grow, there has to be people besides me leading things, which we now have because we have Scott and Kyle and Kelsey in the director roles today. We also added marketing as a new thing, brought sales on. So I think that we have to keep recognizing what are the key parts that we need to be successful, and how do we allow someone to have that ownership, still bringing through our mission of excellence. So if we have, if we're not excellent to our people or to our clients, we're not going to be successful. So I really think as we move forward and, the directors and other directors to come and managers step up and are leading their areas, I mean, that's part of my role is to own the culture here and ensure that those leaders are pushing the culture and education. And then also I'm talking to that to the world. So, and what was the second part? Because I forgot.
Oh, it was if everyone can remember one thing from our mission
Oh,
after today's
yes.
conversation, what would it be?
I think it has to be how that mission makes people feel. Because if you want people to remember something, what they're going to remember is how they feel, not necessarily how you said something to them. So if we're being excellent to our people, we're providing opportunities, we're communicating well, we're teaching them, and they should feel very special and, very present and valued here at Germaine.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you again for your unreasonably hospitable leadership.
Thank you, Maya. So,
To follow. But Susan, I know that you've communicated to executives pretty much your whole career, and now you're communicated to as an executive. So I wanted to ask, other than the don't bring a rat to my door, do you have any recommendations for how to communicate successfully with executives? Because we know it's different and we do it with you and we also do it with a lot of our clients.
and I think, again, I think it's bringing that grace. So I want to hear from all of you. Maybe I don't want to hear the 120-page version, but I want to hear what things are happening. I want to hear about big wins and successes, but also challenges. And I don't think a challenge is a rat. I think a rat is a rat, right? But if it's the challenge that we're noticing there are holes in the walls or there, things like that, I'm here to work through those with you too. So certainly reach out and communicate, but I think focus on how do we make Germane better? And if there's something that you need personally or professionally that I could participate in, I'm happy to do that too.
That's helpful. And do you think the same thing goes for the clients? Like when we're communicating with a system level CEO, is there anything that we should be particularly aware of that they're going to care about or not care about, or a style to keep in mind?
I think you have to read them. I think that is really probably the most critical part of being a consultant and going out and working with clients is that ability to quickly read them and know that some of them are going to, and it really matters if you live in the North or the South, like the clients too, because it is radically different. The first time I consulted in the South and I just got going and here's this and I'm talking quickly, it's like, whoa, 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 do you want some iced tea? Or you know what I mean? So I think that understanding all the differences around a male and a female are going to communicate differently to you, certainly regionally, what's happening in their organization. Because if they have a lot going on and they're really struggling, they're probably not going to want to chat with you too much. So I just think listening to them, and I think if you come in as a professional, you're certainly friendly, but not overly friendly, then you'll be able to read what it is that they want.
That makes sense. Kind of comes back to the emotional intelligence too that you mentioned earlier.
It does. A lot does.
Really, really appreciate everybody's questions. But most importantly, Susan, we really appreciate your time. I know you are very, very busy, so we cannot thank you enough for your time today and the time that you spent meeting with me before this and just sharing all of your insights. So thank you very much. And thank you everyone for joining us. And I hope you have a great day.